Gen Z horror is weird. And it's weird in the way that the movies seem to feel like they need to be comedies as much as they are horrors. And before I get too much into it, yes, I understand there's always going to be differences. There's always going to be art house for horror, elevated horror, whatever you want to call it. But I'm talking a lot with the more big tentpole releases we're getting right now. The movie that really started this idea of what Gen Z horror is looking like is most recently the Final Destination Bloodlines movie. It's easily as a comedy as much as it is a horror, but I do think because of the source material and what it is, it does a good job of kind of blending it at the right moments. But the one that I just saw recently that doesn't work is I Know What You Did Last Summer, the requel or sequel, whatever you want to call it, where apart from having just kind of a poor script, it also feels like it needs to fit in a joke every 2 to 3 minutes to try to keep the audience's attention. It feels like these movies are trying to be a combination of two things: Scream 2022 and Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. These seem to be kind of the foundational requels or sequel horrors that Gen Z is kind of building off of for horror. And honestly, I think the comedy comes as a direct result to the mix of millennial Gen X horror that was immediately after post 9/11. Post 9/11 saw about 1,000 different remakes of horror franchise. I'm looking at you, Texas Chainsaw, Friday the 13th, and unfortunately Nightmare. And also weird offshoot sequel movies. Again, I'm looking at you, Texas Chainsaw, with your Alexandra Daddario starring ass. But it was the style of movies where everything was very dark. There wasn't a lot of comedy, and the movie didn't really give you a chance to breathe. It tried to keep an overall feeling of dread on you. And that style actually resulted in a lot of unintentional comedy because if you don't give the audience a chance to breathe, they'll make something funny on their own, which is why something like Saw felt so fresh. But I will say that the jokes that these movies seem to use are forced in the way that it's supposed to just keep the audience's attention. It almost feels like a visual representation of how you keep a toddler interested with keys. Look at this. Jokes. That's funny, right? I guess all this to say I'm interested to see on how the genre will develop as far as Gen Z horror, but I think we're in a little bit of a slump right now in what I would call requel hell.